Howdy, howdy. Welcome to JoJo's Daily Dose, episode 15. So I wanted to talk about one of the other ways that our energy is restricted. And the idea is this old paradigm idea of protection. So you may have heard about that in many ways, like, oh, I need to put a bubble of light around me to protect my energy from negative entities, from other people's bad vibes, from like whatever else. And, you know, I've never, ever used protection in my whole life. And I've been doing a lot of spiritual work for a while. So the thing about protection is that I never really understood why it was a thing, because it's actually coming from a fear-based intention. So when you're like, oh, I need to put some energetic walls up to protect myself, you're in fear that something is going to happen to you because of something else. And ultimately, that isn't the truth. But what is happening is that you are then actioning and creating, and you're operating out of the frequency of fear when you're doing that. And so you're going to probably bring in more experiences vibrationally into your reality that are oscillating in fear. And so this idea of protection, you need to protect your energy, you need to protect yourself, all of this is just one of the biggest old paradigm teachings on the planet that is not in the truth of who we are. Because if we are understanding ourselves as sovereign, divine, created beings and all powerful, nothing else has power over us. Like, it just does not. When you're ultimately holding your energy and your sovereignty. I've only ever had an experience of a psychic attack once. And the only reason it got in was because I doubted myself. It was a very tricky situation involving friends, involving something I couldn't prove, but I knew with my intuition was not right and off. And I then took an action to do that. But I also really questioned myself in the whole thing because it was such a tricky situation. It was really a massive initiation for me. But the only reason that a psychic attack got into my field was because I doubted myself. And that was a really big learning for me, because I found that is when I wasn't solid in myself. I was questioning whether, in fact, what I was getting intuitively was correct, whether I was doing the right thing, whether that was the right next action to take. And ultimately, what happened was, in the unfolding of all of those events, sequentially, I was shown that I was correct, bang on the money. And I also learned about the fact that the only way that kind of thing can get into your field is if you let it, i.e. you're out of your sovereignty, you're out of your power, you're doubting yourself, or you're judging yourself, or you're criticizing, or whatever. And so it's actually quite a huge motivation point to not be in that space and actually be really empowered in your own energy and trusting yourself as well. If you don't trust yourself, also, that opens for other bits and pieces to come in. And that's why also a lot of people can be absorbing a lot of the energy around them, right? They're not running their own energetics in a way that is in alignment with their true sovereignty. Otherwise, they wouldn't be bringing in those experiences of not being able to handle the energy in any kind of way. And I think when we're all sitting squarely in our divine beingness, in our sovereignty, in the power of who we are, and we are just operating out of that is when we are able to, nothing can come into that, right? You're literally in a different vibrational field. So this old idea of needing protection for yourself, needing to create a bubble of light around you, needing to protect your aura, all of that, really outdated. It may have been helpful at some time on the planet when there was a different level of consciousness, there was different levels of all these other things. But now, that is not the way. And it was also, we're here to show up in our mastery and all of this, right? It's not about, any of that other stuff. So, yeah, I highly recommend, if you have been using this paradigm of protection in any way, that you start to move outside of it, that you start to actually recognize yourself in the truth of who you are, power that shit up, and understand that actually when it comes down to it, you've got to see it from a different perspective, because you're seeing into the frequency, you're seeing into your motivations and how you're operating and what energetics that is coming from. That's the most important thing, right? And you got to feel into it, and you got to know in your deepest knowing. This is how I guide my clients back to themselves. That's how I guide people through change, and how I've guided my own personal journey of transformation, because you got to dial into not what we've been told all the time, even if these are these ancient teachings. You got to really understand what's right and true within. And it actually, when you boil it down and when you start to look into it, it doesn't actually make like logical sense either when you really think about it in the vibrational sense of the word, or in this quantum reality that we're in. So there you go. There's my little ramble for today. JoJo's Daily Dose coming at you. I hope you enjoyed it. It's been so nice to hear from people in the background who are checking this out and enjoying the Daily Dose. And so chuck us a heart if you're into it. And I look forward to seeing you all soon here tomorrow. Mwah.